Listing comments and reward notification. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Just a heads up, it would be a real shame if chapters 39 and 40 weren't released together, so please do your best. I meant to thank you for the book on Thursday morning, but I got caught up in reading and writing and totally spaced. My bad. This is the 5th book on my digital shelf, which is a big deal for me. The first 4 were all fan fiction, a slice of life youth story, 2 Type Moon stories, and 1 Genshin Impact story, all stuff I'm into. This book is also something I'm passionate about, but it's my first stab at original work instead of fanfic. Speaking of which, I lucked out and hit number 1 on the click chart after dropping a bonus chapter. I got bumped to 2nd place on Saturday, but I'm still stoked. The other author seems to be in the same online group as me. Haha, my luck's been a little rough lately. Mauka closed comments this week for review, switching to manual approval. That means any chapters 1 post tonight might not go live until tomorrow. That's rough for a night owl like me since I mostly write late at night. I'm going to have to switch to writing during the day, which is going to be a pain, but I dodged a bullet. There was a little bit of drama brewing when I was at the top of the charts, but I caught it early and shut it down quick. I closed the comment thread, so I didn't have to delete any of those snarky comments. I think I officially started writing The Pet Boy Under the Snow back in October 2018. I was a total newbie back then, but everyone was pretty chill. Someone even joked that Mauka readers were old and clueless. Haha, I don't know when things changed, but some people started getting angrier and angrier. Eventually, I managed to finish that book and dove into another one for a month, writing over 2 million words. I was almost done when it got rejected, but I'll finish it up in the group later. After that book got canned, I realized I was hooked on writing, so I started 2 more. So far, except for the one that got abandoned, all my other books have been finished properly. I think I've written close to 6 million words this year. So you don't have to worry about me taking the money and running once it goes live. I'm pretty lucky. You can subscribe without any worries. Okay, I'm just rambling at this point. It's late. Here's the deal for extra chapters: 200 monthly tickets, 150 blades, tips/donations, or 15,000 reward points between July 2nd and July 9th next week. I'm off to bed. I'll hit it hard tomorrow. Chapter 41. Do you understand the value of? You are listening at novelfull.audio. The man in the black robes was visibly stunned. He collected himself after a moment, slowly turning to lock eyes with Mu Zhian, his voice cold. You're going to attack me? That he knew his worth, which was why he'd been so calm chatting with Mu Zhian. When Lan Murian trapped him here, he'd considered every possibility, but never imagined his captor would want to eliminate him on the spot. Master Mu, think this through. I hold countless secrets. Doesn't that pique your curiosity? The black-robed man asked, his voice deep. Mu Zhian glanced at him. Then tell me, will you talk? That the black-robed man hesitated, then slowly shook his head. Seeing Mu Zhian stand and draw his sword, a murderous glint in his eye, the black-robed man hurried to say, kill me, and the 7th seat will know immediately who did it. You'll become enemies of the demon race. Think about it. Bound by Lan Murian's spell and weakened by serious injuries, even a novice cultivator could take him out. No wonder the man was panicking. Hearing this, Mu Zhian paused. 7th seat. The black-robed man's eyes flickered, but he remained silent. Then, lifting his chin, he bargained, swear you'll let me go and promise the cultivators outside won't touch me, and I'll tell you about the 7th seat. Before he could finish, the tip of the sword pierced his throat. His eyes widened, staring at Mu Zhian in disbelief. The 7th seat has my interest, but not enough for me to let you walk away, Mu Zhian said, flicking the blood from his blade before sheathing it. He looked down coldly at the slowly collapsing man. From the moment Mu Zhian stepped into this cage, he had no intention of letting the black-robed man leave. Killing him now was less trouble than waiting. The hatred burning in the black-robed man's eyes was impossible to ignore. He harbored murderous intent towards Mu Zhian, the Mu family, and even Bai Ruoshi. Worse, he knew Bai Ruoshi possessed the Qi of heaven. If that got out, it would be a disaster. Better to defuse a ticking time bomb. Secrets and all. Letting the black-robed man go would only invite future trouble. Mu Zhian watched the life fade from the black-robed man's eyes, then opened his personal interface. He wanted to see how much influence his supporting role status retained after suppressing the protagonist, Yu. The two-word supporting role had faded from deep black to a light pink, good. It meant weakening Yu was also diminishing his own role. He glanced to the side. The titles, Heaven's Envy of Talents, and Natural Furnace Cauldron, remained dark purple. Mu Zhian examined the screen more closely. The four words, Friends of the Villain, had changed completely, from purplish black to solid black. Mu Zhian frowned. Weird. Why did Friends of the Villain darken after I killed him? If the black-robed man was telling the truth, his death should earn Mu Zhian a spot on the demon race's hit list, remembered by the 7th seat. So why did killing him make Friends of the Villain even darker? Just as the thought crossed his mind, the black-robed man dissolved into black mist, dissipating, but the mist didn't vanish. Instead, it spread throughout the moonlit cage, slowly corrupting the once holy space with darkness. Something was wrong. A chill ran down Mu Zhian's spine, and he turned to leave. Then, a clear, soft, and sweet voice whispered in his ear. Natural Furnace Cauldron. If you weren't in Dongzhou, you could have been my pet. As the voice behind him sent shivers down his spine, Mu Zhian turned slowly. An overwhelming presence had quietly descended into the small space. She wore a slightly loose, double-breasted dress that couldn't hide her curves. Her eyes were charming and alluring, yet they held an indescribable majesty that made it hard to look at her directly. Despite never seeing this woman before, Mu Zhian knew who she was instantly. This had to be the Empress the black-robed man mentioned, ruler of the demon world. Her snake tail was a dead giveaway, though she appeared as a mature, sexy woman, the kind Mu Zhian usually found attractive. His body tensed uncontrollably. No wonder Friends of the Villain was so dark. He never expected the Empress herself to show up. If he'd known killing the black-robed man would attract the Queen of the demon world, he wouldn't have done it. Greetings, Your Majesty, he said, bowing slightly with clasped fists. The graceful, ethereal figure approached slowly, stopping in front of him. She tilted her head slightly, looking down at him with a chuckle. I thought I'd stumbled upon Shang Yanfei. Instead, a little chi training ghost drags out a wisp of my consciousness. Mu Zhian kept his head down, secretly mulling over the name Shang Yanfei. The only one who could go toe-to-toe with the sky-devouring python. Wasn't that the leader of the Liani sect? So Shang Yanfei was her name. What brings the queen here? Mu Zhian asked calmly, though his heart pounded in his chest. The woman raised her eyes. Where is the chi of heaven? If your majesty desires it, I'll acquire it later, Mu Zhian replied earnestly. How thoughtful. But I'm not particularly interested in the chi of heaven. She shook her head. I have something more important in mind. Mu Zhian looked up, meeting her gaze as she curled the corner of her mouth slightly, looking down at him. You. The natural furnace cauldron ensured anyone who trained with him would experience accelerated cultivation. Though the sky-swallowing python had no use for it, it was good for the occasional treat. She changed the subject casually. If I recall correctly, the Liani sect's assessment is in less than 2 weeks. Join Liani sect, and I'll have someone contact you to report intelligence every 3 months. Mu Zhian was taken aback. Why me? But he couldn't fathom her intentions. He'd assumed she was here to avenge the black-robed man, but she seemed to care nothing for his life or death, so why show up at all? Could the title of Friend of the Villain be influencing her? Mu Zhian wondered. The charming queen gently stretched out her hand, her slender fingertips tracing his cheek as she smiled. With your abilities, entering the upper echelons of Liani sect won't be difficult. Seeing Mu Zhian's silence, she pressed, or, do you wish to refuse me? Just agree for now, and worry about it later. Mu Zhian nodded slightly. If it is your majesty's request, I will do it without hesitation. The woman smiled sweetly. I look forward to the news you bring. After entering Liani sect, I'll have my people contact you discreetly. So there were already demon cultivators within Liani sect. This beautiful snake had grand ambitions. Mu Zhian watched the dissolving figure and nodded casually. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, As her overwhelming presence faded, accompanied by the faint fragrance lingering in the air, she leaned in close to Mu Zhian's ear, her alluring lips parting slightly as she whispered, "I can read minds." Mu Zhian. Only after the queen vanished from the cage did Mu Zhian realize his back was drenched in cold sweat. Since awakening his memories, he now knew that when the power gap reached a certain point, all schemes and tricks were meaningless. Chapter 42 Haha, there are too many villains. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. The cage Lan Mulyan had carefully built shattered, revealing Mu Zhian in the dimly lit cave. Lan Mulyan looked at the handsome young man. "Where's the demon cultivator?" "Dead," Mu Zhian replied. He paused. "But not entirely." Dead, but not entirely dead. The black-robed guy was gone, but his demise somehow summoned the demon queen from way up in Beizhou. Yeah, right. Nobody's going to buy that. A world-famous queen showing up in this backwater, even asking Mu Zhian to join the Liangyi sect to feed intel to the demon world. No one would believe it in a million years, especially since Mu Zhian was just a low-level chi training nobody. Maybe it's this villain magnet thing causing trouble. That was the only explanation Mu Zhian could come up with. Lan Mulyan frowned slightly. "What do you mean, that she was clearly lost? Dead but not completely dead? What kind of mumbo-jumbo was that?" "I mean he died, but before he did, he marked me. Apparently, the demon world's number 7 wants me blacklisted." As he said this, Mu Zhian glanced at the villain magnet tag on his interface, along with the added note, "has attracted the attention of the demon queen, I really don't want to be a villain, Mu Zhian thought with a sigh. He looked up into Lan Mulyan's beautiful eyes. "So, what do you think I should do, senior sister, translation, please cover my butt, Lan Mulyan responded softly, "If you join the Liangyi sect, it won't matter if you're targeted by the number 7. She paused. "However, the entrance exam is brutally difficult. Maybe a handful of people from each county get in. If you don't buckle down and study, with your measly third-level chi training. I'm afraid." She clearly wanted him to step it up. He had obvious talent, but he was just a junior monk at the third level of chi training. It was a waste. Mu Zhian was surprised. "The exam is that tough?" Lan Mulyan nodded slightly. Mu Zhian fell into thought. Seeing this, Lan Mulyan couldn't help but say, "But don't get discouraged. Even if you don't make it this year, if you practice hard for a year, you might pass next time." Mu Zhian snapped out of it and shook his head gently. "It's okay, I'll get in this year." Lan Mulyan raised her eyebrows. "You have potential, but it'll be tough this year." She glanced at Bai Ruoshi, also in a white dress, her face pretty. "She might be alright, though." "I'm good to go," Mu Zhian said. Lan Mulyan looked at Mu Zhian and shook her head slowly. "It's going to be difficult." Even though she was one of the people in charge of the exam, she couldn't just give him a free pass because they were friends. It was a matter of principle. "It's not difficult," Mu Zhian repeated. Before she could respond, he elaborated, "The Mu family has some pull in Tianxian City. I'm basically escorting the Liangyi sect." Lan Mulyan. Beneath the veil, senior sister Lan's usually calm eyes flickered as she gave Mu Zhian a long, hard look. He was messing with her on purpose. If he was already being looked after, why the heck was he asking so many questions? "People are looking for you everywhere. You can handle the rest." "I'll head to Tianxian City later," Lan Mulyan said, changing the subject. She was a disciple of the Liangyi sect. She shouldn't get involved in these external affairs. Mu Zhian nodded, more serious now. "Thanks for your help this time, senior sister." Lan Mulyan nodded slightly, turned, and left. Mu Zhian watched until senior sister Lan disappeared from view. Then he turned to the girl behind him and held out his hand. "Can you walk?" "Yes," Bai Ruoshi said softly. She clutched her injured shoulder, reached for Mu Zhian's hand, and managed to stand with his help. Her lips were pale. The girl who always seemed cold and fragile now looked even more sickly, making people feel sorry for her. "You sure you're okay?" Mu Zhian asked, sounding concerned. Bai Ruoshi shook her head gently. It's okay, the poison didn't spread. I should be fine after a couple of days of rest. Good, Mu Zhian said, relieved. Then, he glanced at the cave entrance. It might not be so easy to go back. The Qi of Heaven had vanished into thin air, and he and Bai Ruoshi had disappeared with it. Gongsun Xiong and the others weren't stupid. They were bound to be suspicious. Things are about to get interesting. Mu Zhian turned his head and looked thoughtfully at the cave entrance. Bai Ruoshi looked at the young man's handsome profile and asked softly, that senior sister, what's she to you? Mu Zhian snapped out of it, turned to Bai Ruoshi, and smiled. She's my senior sister, of course. What else could she be? Are you planning to join the Liangyi sect? Bai Ruoshi asked again. Mu Zhian nodded. If you want better cultivation conditions, Liangyi sect is the obvious choice. Don't you have the same plan? Originally, he'd wanted to join the Liangyi sect just to improve his cultivation, but now, he had this whole spy thing to deal with. It weighed on him. He didn't say anything about the demon queen showing up. Who knew what kind of powers she had? Best to keep it to himself. After hearing Mu Zhian's answer, Bai Ruoshi placed her slender hand on her chest and breathed a sigh of relief. I am planning to, that's why I asked. She wasn't the only one. Most of the young talents in Tianxian City would be participating in the exam. Even Wei Mengru, as Mu Zhian's maid, would probably go. Of course, with Wei Mengru's spirit refining level, passing the exam shouldn't be too hard for her. Thinking of this, Bai Ruoshi looked at Mu Zhian and noticed he hadn't said anything for a while. After hesitating for a moment, she asked, the man in black is dead. What else are you worried about? Mu Zhian seemed to understand. He turned and stared at Bai Ruoshi. The landlord's dead, and now everyone's lost their common enemy. What do you think happens next? Bai Ruoshi was startled. She looked at Mu Zhian, her mouth slightly open, unsure what to say. Mu Zhian grinned. They turn on each other. It's infighting time. The show was just getting started. Chapter 43 Sect Assessment 3.5K. You are listening at MTnovel. At that moment, deep in Dragon Head Forest, several monks at the god refining level flew through the air on their swords. Gongsun Xiong, dressed in an extravagant robe, stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his gaze sweeping the trees, his face a thundercloud. Beside him, the Gongsun family's guest wore a similar grim expression, clearly in a foul mood. It was Gongsun Xiong who had invited him to deal with bandits. As a guest of the Gongsun family, he'd readily agreed, not thinking much of it, but then the Qi of Heaven appeared. Everything changed. A treasure that rare was impossible to ignore. Seeing something so close to his grasp vanish into thin air, he was barely managing to keep his cool. Gongsun Xiong turned in the air to face the old man from the Mu family and Wei Mengru, his voice sharp. Mr. Ren, Miss Wei, care to explain what Master Mu was doing on the side while we were busy cornering the guy in black robes? And where did the Bai girl disappear to? Mr. Ren didn't even bother to look up, relaxing on his sword. Young love, you know. Sparks fly. Maybe they just needed a private moment deep in the woods to sort things out. Gongsun Xiong narrowed his eyes. You buy that? The Qi of Heaven vanished shortly after Mu Zhian and Bai Ruoshi took off. That's a bit too convenient. The Mu family has clout in Tianxian City, but an explanation is still due. Mr. Tian from the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce chimed in, siding with Gongsun Xiong. Yi Yu, with the aid of the old man's power, managed to keep his sword steady. Hearing this, he snapped, I told you there was something fishy about Mu Zhian. He knew I carried the Qi of Heaven, and he led me into Dragon Head Forest. The bandit thing was just a cover. He was after the energy from the start. Mr. Ren replied evenly, hold your tongue until we know the truth. He waved his hand, conjuring a small birdcage. Inside was the soul of the black-robed man's accomplice, the one they just killed. Mr. Ren had used a special technique to trap the soul. Maybe the black-robed guy stole the Qi of Heaven himself. Mr. Ren proposed. Gongsun Xiong scoffed. The black-robed guy got a bit of a surprise death, so maybe he has some other partners. If he had an accomplice, he wouldn't have ended up like that. Not necessarily, Mr. Ren said, a ghost of a smile on his face, but when he glanced away, his eyebrows pinched together. If their young master had taken the chi of heaven, that would be good, but not entirely good, for a whiff of the heavenly power, the Gongsun family, the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce, and maybe even the Mu family would sink their teeth into the younger man, which could cause some trouble. There. Suddenly, the Gongsun family's guest pointed toward a cave entrance, behind some leafy trees, obscured just enough. Sunlight streamed through the branches, dappling the ground. Mu Zhian and Bai Ruoxi stood by the cave entrance, obviously aware of the approaching figures in the air. Mu Zhian looked up to see Gongsun Xiong and the others descending, their faces like thunder. He greeted them with a warm smile. "Uncle Gongsun, looks like you wrapped things up over there." Gongsun Xiong clearly wasn't in the mood for the uncle-nephew game. He gave a curt nod, cut to the chase. "The chi of heaven is gone." Mu Zhian looked momentarily surprised, then, after a beat, his mouth fell slightly open, a hint of shock in his eyes, perfectly demonstrating his skill as an actor. "Someone stole it?" he asked, feigning surprise. Gongsun Xiong narrowed his eyes, fixing his gaze on Mu Zhian. "Where did you disappear to, nephew Mu? It vanished soon after you two took off. Don't you think that's convenient?" Mr. Tian added, his eyes locked on Mu Zhian. "We chased after a clone of the black-robed guy," Mu Zhian explained. Gongsun Xiong clearly wasn't buying it. "We just killed the black-robed guy." Mu Zhian shook his head. "Uncle, I don't know. This black-robed man is actually a snake demon. He had previously used the method of sloughing to conceal the truth. The situation was urgent, and Ruoxi and I discovered this. That's why I went after the man in black robe. Escaping the attention of several god-refining realm monks, are you treating your uncle and everyone present as idiots, nephew Mu?" Gongsun Xiong asked, his tone hardening. "You don't have to believe me. But since Mr. Ren trapped his accomplice's soul, my uncle would know as soon as he asks." Mu Zhian indicated the birdcage in Mr. Ren's hand. Gongsun Xiong stared intently into Mu Zhian's eyes, trying to read him. He didn't believe Mu Zhian's story, but the man's composure gave him pause. Mu Zhian was highly suspect in the disappearance of the chi of heaven, but the question was, could a young monk in the chi training realm really control the chi of heaven? Gongsun Xiong turned to Mr. Ren. "Mr. Ren, please release this evil cultivator's soul and question him." Mr. Ren nodded slightly, opening the cage. The demon cultivator's spirit hovered in the air, its eyes dull and lifeless. Ren Lao glanced at Mu Zhian casually. After confirming that there was no panic on Mu Zhian's face, he withdrew his gaze, looked at the demon cultivator, and said, "Did your companion know how to cheat death? When seriously injured, he can shed his skin and fake death once." The demon cultivator's flat voice echoed. Silence fell around the cave entrance. "What was your purpose?" Mu Zhian asked abruptly. "Meet up with my partners in Tianxian City and help them use Tianxian City as one of their strongholds to seize the energy of heaven." The demon cultivator answered mechanically. Those present exchanged glances. The demon cultivator had just revealed that other accomplices were hiding in Tianxian City. Gongsun Xiong pressed. "Who?" But this time, the demon cultivator's soul remained silent, floating in the air, its eyes vacant. Its mouth slowly opened, but it couldn't make a sound. After a long moment, the body gradually faded, dissolving into nothingness. A heavy quiet settled over the cave entrance. Mu Zhian said solemnly, "Seems there are other demon cultivators lurking in Tianxian City. They must have stolen the chi of heaven." Gongsun Xiong's expression soured, but he couldn't argue, though doubt lingered. Continuing to pressure Mu Zhian would only anger the Mu family. Besides, Gongsun Xiong was more inclined to believe the chi of heaven had been stolen by a mysterious demon cultivator in Tianxian City than that Mu Zhian could control it. At that moment, Yi Yu fixed his gaze on Mu Zhian. "Master Mu, you keep saying demon cultivators might have stolen it, but how do you explain you and Miss Bai disappearing for so long?" Mu Zhian smiled. "Like I said, Ruoxi and I were chasing the black-robed guy. Sadly, even injured, he was still a god-refining realm cultivator, so we didn't dare pursue him too far. Ruashi even took a slight knock. You didn't back down. You're a suspect, too. Mu Zhian shook his head, still smiling. Even if I did steal the Qi of Heaven, so what? You faltered slightly, but with Wei Mengru and Ren Lao beside him, he bit back his anger. That was mine. If it was yours, why did it run off instead of choosing you? Mu Zhian countered. And you picked it up off the ground, right? You have to turn in the things you pick up, Mu Zhian added, dead serious. Yi Yu was dumbstruck. He knew Mu Zhian's argument was absurd, but he couldn't think of a reply. He had found the Qi of Heaven, it was true, and the Qi of Heaven later had not chosen him, but disappeared. Even so, Yi Yu clenched his fists, unwilling to let it go, and glared at Mu Zhian. Mu Zhian ignored Yi Yu, turning to Gongsun Xiong with a smile. Uncle Gongsun, still have doubts about me? Gongsun Xiong's eyes flickered, then he burst into hearty laughter. Good that the misunderstanding is settled. I always had faith in you, nephew Mu. It's just, seeing the Qi of Heaven disappear, I got a little anxious. I was a bit harsh. Hope you won't hold it against your uncle. He then changed the subject. Where did the black-robed guy go? Any leads, nephew Mu? Killed by disciples of Liangyi Sect, Mu Zhian said. Liangyi Sect disciples. Gongsun Xiong repeated, his eyes suddenly lighting up as something clicked. Are you one of the assessors for this sect examination? He asked eagerly, though Liangyi Sect's entrance exam was less than 2 weeks away. If Gongsun Xiong could get close to the assessor and build a relationship, he might be able to pull strings later for his family members. Under normal circumstances, the examiners of Liangyi Sect would not go down the mountain in advance. This time, the other party came down early, probably because of the man in black robe. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Not only Gongsun Xiong, but Mr. Tian from the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce and even the old man from the Mu family perked up. The Mu family had a quota to recommend someone to the Liangyi Sect, but if they could build a good relationship and get 1 or 2 more quotas, that would be even better. The opportunity to receive the assessor must be won, though they hadn't found the Qi of Heaven. Gongsun Xiong, always one to maximize gains, made a quick decision. Gentlemen, I have pressing matters. Since the demon cultivators are dead, I'll be heading back. He would rush back, put his men on standby outside Tianxian City, hoping they could intercept the assessor upon arrival. Mr. Tian cupped his fist in farewell. I have my own affairs. I'll be taking my leave. Mu Zhian smiled, nodding. Take care, Tian. He glanced at Gongsun Xiong, who was about to leave again. Uncle Gongsun, I'm afraid you can't leave just yet. Gongsun Xiong paused, turning back with a smile. Something else, nephew Mu. My innocence has been cleared, but your innocence has not yet been cleared, Mu Zhian said. Gongsun Xiong's brow furrowed slightly. What do you mean? It's some personal issues that uncle needs to solve by himself, Mu Zhian replied with a smile. He pulled by Ruashi back. Suddenly, a shocking wave of killing intent surged from the distance. Gongsun Xiong tensed. He could feel it was directed at him. He spun around. In the distance, a powerfully built cultivator charged toward him, sword drawn. One moment he was far away, the next he was upon them. It was Father Bai, restored to full strength after his recuperation. The furious aura of the brute completely enveloped Gongsun Xiong, freezing the smile on the face of the man who had always been a strategist in the Gongsun family. He was still recovering from the fight with the black-robed guy. Facing Father Bai at his peak would be tough. Ruashi, let's go back, Mu Zhian said softly. Bai Ruashi's eyes were filled with concern. But Dad. Don't worry, he'll be fine. Mu Zhian glanced at Gongsun Xiong. But for him, that's not necessarily the case. These monks in the god-refining realm had just fought with the men in black robes and were in a bad state. Faced with a furious Father Bai and the 2 guards around him, the guests of the Gongsun family would naturally not fight hard, and in this case, it was Gongsun Xiong who suffered. Hearing this, Bai Ruashi could only nod. Under Wei Mengra's guidance, she left the scene where a terrifying battle was about to begin. That day, Gongsun Xiong was severely injured, and that day, the news that one of the Liangyi sect's examiners had descended upon Tianxian city spread like wildfire, igniting excitement throughout the city. Chapter 44. The triangle is the most stable. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The next morning, Mu Zhian went to Bai Ruoxi's room and knocked. "Come in," she said, her voice a little tired. Mu Zhian opened the door to find her sitting on the edge of the bed. She wore a white dress, her hair flowing down her back. Her lips were slightly pursed. Mu Zhian sat across from her. Bai Ruoxi looked up. "Master Mu, any news about my father?" Her voice was cool. Since returning to the Mu family, she'd been worried about her father's situation. Even knowing Gongsun Xiong was in bad shape after the Dragon Head Forest, she still fretted. "Gongsun Xiong took a beating yesterday, and he's still bedridden. What do you think your father's up to?" Mu Zhian said with a smile. Bai Ruoxi visibly relaxed, then, a flash of coldness crossed her face. "Too bad he made it back to the Gongsun family." Mu Zhian shook his head. "Your uncle Bai let him go. If he hadn't held back, Gongsun Xiong would be dead." Her father and Gongsun Xiong were evenly matched. And after his run-in with the black-robed man, Gongsun Xiong was already weakened. Her father could have finished him off. Bai Ruoxi frowned. "My father let him go? Why? Shows he's smarter than he looks. A real rough-but-ready type." Mu Zhian poured himself some tea. Even if Gongsun Xiong died, the Gongsun family would just find another one, maybe even a better one. Killing him solves nothing. How could a family that's been in Tianxian city that long just crumble because the patriarch died? Someone would just step up, maybe do an even better job. This is the best outcome. Gongsun Xiong is obsessed with power. Even injured, he'll never fully hand it over. That'll slow the Gongsun family down. Gongsun Xiong is more useful injured than dead or at his peak. "How are you feeling?" Mu Zhian asked. Bai Ruoxi smiled. "I'm okay. The Qi of Heaven cleaned out the toxins from my shoulder last night." She held out her right hand. A milky white ball of light, about the size of a teacup, floated in her palm. The Qi of Heaven. Mu Zhian reached out to touch it and felt a warm tingle. He squinted with pleasure. "It really is a sacred relic. With this, even a pig could reach the return to Void Realm," he said, impressed. Bai Ruoxi frowned, sensing a hint of teasing. She looked at Mu Zhian, then quietly hummed. After a pause, she said, "If you want, Master Mu, take it. You need it more than I do." He'd spent too much time slacking in the past. The heavenly Tao Qi could help him catch up. Mu Zhian's eyes flickered. He was interested in the heavenly Tao Qi. It could turn anyone into a genius. It was tempting. He reached out to grab it, but came up empty. The heavenly Qi had vanished into Bai Ruoxi's body. They exchanged surprised looks. The heavenly Qi only chooses people with great luck. "Guess it thinks I'm a jinx," Mu Zhian said, laughing. He wasn't upset. He was tempted, but he knew his luck wasn't great. He was the supporting character. After all, how could a supporting character, an unlucky one used as a stepping stone, attract the heavenly Qi? But then again, the heavenly Qi goes for lucky people. So, the heavenly Qi sees Bai Ruoxi as luckier than Yi Yu, the protagonist? No. More likely it's drawn to the bronze sword. The more Mu Zhian thought, the luckier he felt. He might not be lucky, but he could spend money. Stopping Yi Yu at the auction and buying the bronze fragment was the right call. "What's the next move, Master Mu?" Bai Ruoxi asked quietly. She'd grown to rely on Mu Zhian, to trust him without question. Mu Zhian snapped back to attention. "Senior sister Lan helped out big time. I want to invite her to stay at the Mu mansion for a few days. Then we'll head to Liangyi sect when the assessment comes." Lan Mulyan arrived in Tianxian city yesterday and is still at the inn. Everyone wants to get on her good side. Naturally, the Mu family does too, but Mu Zhian wasn't thinking that way. He just wanted to invite her. Whether he could get any special treatment was secondary. He was just a recommended student. The God-refining realm cultivator. By Ruashi's smile faded, she lowered her eyes, her dark eyes shadowed by her lashes. She felt a little uneasy. After a long silence, she asked softly, "What about my mother?" That she'd wanted to ask Mu Zhian what he thought of her mother, by Yuan Feng, ever since discovering her secret, but she hadn't found the courage. They were planning to take over the three major families. If the Mu family found out, they'd be killed. She didn't know if Mu Zhian was planning to act or if he had other motives. Mu Zhian saw her worry. "Don't worry. We need proof before we act. We can't just make wild accusations and hurt innocent people. Besides, there are still a lot of unanswered questions. How could a Qi training cultivator have the guts to take over three major families? Someone must be backing by Yuan Feng, otherwise, she's just too dumb." Never underestimate your enemy. By Ruashi stared, mouth slightly open. She wanted to say her mother had already slept with Gongsun Xiong. Could there be a reversal? But she held back. They chatted for a few more minutes. Then, worried about her parents, Bai Ruashi left the Mu family. Mu Zhian didn't stop her, just ordered a carriage to take her home. He was curious how her father would treat her mother now. He couldn't see it himself, but Bai Ruashi could. Watching the carriage leave, Mu Zhian went back inside. Is it really okay to let her go back like that? Aren't you worried Gongsun Xiong will retaliate against her family? A clear voice asked. Wei Mengru was there, a constant shadow. She'd been following them, unnoticed. Mu Zhian glanced at Wei Mengru in her yellow dress. Gongsun Xiong won't, not anytime soon, anyway. Seeing her confused, Mu Zhian explained, "Say you and I had a thing, something between lovers. Would you chase me through Tianxian City with a sword, making a scene?" Wei Mengru said calmly, "If you did, you wouldn't even make it out of the Mu family." She paused. "But, you're right. If it were me, I wouldn't want anyone to know. The Gongsun family came by this morning. And the Yi family asked about you," Wei Mengru said. "Gongsun Xiong still suspects you have the Qi of Heaven." "Ignore them," Mu Zhian waved. "Even if I did have the Qi of Heaven, what are they going to do? Hold me down and make me cough it up?" That even if Mu Zhian agreed, the Mu family elders wouldn't allow it. "And you'd protect me, right, Sister Mengru?" Mu Zhian added. Wei Mengru pouted. "Madam told me to before she left. I'm not doing it out of the goodness of my heart." "That I get it, Sundara." Mu Zhian nodded and changed the subject. "Has anyone come from the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce?" "They did, but they didn't ask about the Qi of Heaven. They just sent 2 bottles of healing elixirs." Wei Mengru looked confused. "They should want the Qi of Heaven, but they left without asking. It's odd." "Not really." Mu Zhian and the maid strolled down the path. The beautiful maid in yellow walked beside him, the thin dress showing off her curves. Mu Zhian admired her figure. He looked away and said, "The Chenxi Chamber of Commerce attacked the Bai family because the head of the family was seriously injured, and the Gongsun family was squeezing them. Now that the head of the Bai family is back, they want to play it safe and hedge their bets." Mr. Huang of Chenxi Chamber of Commerce feared reckless men more than intelligent enemies. A small attack on the Bai family's business. Her father could tolerate it, but wanting the Bai family dead? He might go all out, willing to destroy himself in the process. Businessmen value their lives. In the end, both sides of the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce are placing bets. They're going with whoever is stronger. "Just grass on the wall," Wei Mengru said. Then she asked, "Are you going to accept their offer?" Mu Zhian smiled and nodded. "They're being so sincere, not even asking about the heavenly Tao Qi. How can we refuse?" "So, we're cooperating with the Dawn Chamber of Commerce?" Wei Mengru asked. "The triangle is the most stable structure," Mu Zhian said. He paused. "But the quadrilateral isn't very stable." Chapter 45 Sisters. You are listening at novelfull.audio. They were chatting and, without realizing it, had wandered into the study. Mu Zhian pushed the study door open. The most important thing is to get senior sister Lan to stay with us for a few days. I did talk her into coming, so we need to be good hosts. Wei Mengru nodded. Lan Murian shouldn't have left the mountain so soon, but Jian had sweet-talked her into it. They definitely had to entertain her, otherwise it wouldn't be right. Besides, everyone, the Bai family, the Dawn Chamber of Commerce, even the Gongsun family, are trying to get Lan Murian to visit. The Mu family can't be left out. If you wanted to see her, why come back to the study instead of going straight to the inn? Wei Mengru asked. It's not as interesting to just meet up. Using paper cranes to send messages might be more effective, Mu Zhian said with a smile. Online chats are different than offline ones, and Mu Zhian knew that. He went into the study to write Lan Murian a letter, inviting her to the Mu residence. Then he noticed a paper crane sitting on the desk. Mu Zhian's eyes flickered. He picked up the paper crane and unfolded it. It was the second letter he'd sent to Lan Murian the day before yesterday. He'd written a second letter when he didn't get a reply to the first one. If I remember correctly, senior sister Lan should have already left for the mountain when the paper crane arrived at Liangyi Sect. So why would someone reply now? Mu Zhian wondered. He flipped the letter over and saw the reply on the back. Could it be that the paper crane automatically found senior sister Lan, and she received it after arriving at the inn in Tianxian City yesterday, then wrote back? Mu Zhian guessed that was the only possibility. The only person he knew at Liangyi Sect was Lan Murian, and the paper crane would only go to her. If Lan Murian didn't reply, then who did? Her master. Mu Zhian chuckled to himself, pulled up a chair, sat down at the desk, and looked at the beautiful handwriting on the letter, at the words that seemed somewhat suggestive. He felt a little stirred. By the time he finished reading, Mu Zhian was a little dazed. He hadn't expected senior sister Lan to have two completely different sides, one online and one offline. Online, she was a mature, sexy, teasing older woman, but offline, she was an ice queen. Interesting, Mu Zhian murmured, looking at the letter. Lan Murian had acted so cold yesterday, but her letter was full of innuendo, but that was exactly the effect he'd been hoping for. Mu Zhian thought for a long time, then picked up his brush and wrote on the letter. Sister, I had the strangest feelings writing this letter. The last time we exchanged letters, you were in the sect and I was far away in Tianxian City. But now that you're here in Tianxian City, there are some things I'm embarrassed to say in person, so I can only write them down. Are you settling in all right in Tianxian City? We only had a brief meeting yesterday. I wanted to see you after returning to Tianxian City, but I was injured and not mentally prepared. I hope you don't mind. Also, if you're up for it, I'd love for you to visit the Mu Mansion. I have a lot to talk to you about offline. Crossed out. In real life, by the way, seeing you yesterday reminded me of a flower called the snow lotus, which represents loyalty, purity, pride, and pure feelings. We've been cultivating a whole pool of them at the Mu family, using the barrier. I'd like to give you one. I hope you like it. When you come to the Mu Mansion, I'll show you the snow lotus. Mu Zhian put down his brush, took the snow lotus from the vase next to him, gently tied the flower's root to the paper crane, and tossed the paper crane out the window. Putting down his brush, he stretched, glanced at the servant, and said, "Get the carriage ready. I'm going to the Yangfeng Inn." By the time the paper crane reached Lan Murian, he'd almost be at the inn himself. Meanwhile, Tianxian City was buzzing with excitement. First, the Liangyi Sect's assessment was about to begin, and one of the examiners, Lan Murian, had already arrived early. Second, the three major families were hunting down demon cultivators to protect the people, a rumor that had been spreading since this morning. The whole city was talking about it in teahouses and inns. Have you heard? Apparently there was a fierce battle in Dragon's Head Forest yesterday. All the refinement realm masters from the three major families and the Dawn Chamber of Commerce went out. The officials found huge craters when they went to investigate. All the refinement realm masters from the four major powers. What enemy did they encounter? Someone who seemed in the know leaned in and whispered, "They say it was a demon cultivator." A demon cultivator? How dare demon cultivators from North Continent cause trouble right under the nose of Liangyi Sect? This caused a flurry of discussion. Demon cultivators were humanity's mortal enemies. Only Liang Yisek's protection had kept the conflicts limited to the border in recent years. The thought of demon cultivators lurking in Tianxian City was terrifying. Wait, didn't someone say yesterday that the Mu family's eldest son went to Dragon's Head Forest? Could he have participated in the demon cultivator hunt? Someone suddenly asked. If the refinement spirit realm masters were involved, the enemy had to be at least in the refinement spirit realm. How could the Mu family's eldest son, a Qi refinement realm cultivator, join in the hunt? Someone immediately countered. But there are rumors that the Mu family's eldest son organized the whole thing. While people were still talking, a carriage stopped in front of the Yangfeng Inn across the street. Mu Zhian opened the curtain and stepped out. He looked up at the classically luxurious inn. Senior Sister Lan knows how to pick he thought. Did she read a travel guide before coming? He'd assumed Lan Murian wouldn't care about worldly things, but it seemed she knew how to enjoy life. This was the best inn in Tianxian City. Someone from out of town wouldn't even know about it. Was Senior Sister Lan just lucky? Lost in these thoughts, Mu Zhian went into the inn. There was nothing the Mu family couldn't find out in Tianxian City. Mu Zhian already knew Lan Murian's room number, so he didn't need to ask the manager. He walked up the stairs, thinking about what to say when he saw her. Then he saw a tall, beautiful woman in a red cheongsam walking toward him. Her jade feet were in red embroidered shoes, and her figure was gorgeous. Mu Zhian looked closer, surprised. It was Fei Ying, the chief auctioneer of the Dawn auction house. Why was she here too? Chapter 46. A person with great luck. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Why is Fei Ying here? You'd think the chief auctioneer would hang out in her own mansion. She rarely comes to this inn, and the second floor is mostly guest rooms. Is she looking for someone or something? Mu Zhian sneaked a peek at Fei Ying, checking her out from head to toe. She was looking good, that's for sure. She seemed a little surprised to see him, glancing at him a couple of times. Then, a charming smile spread across her face, and she said in a soft, melodious voice, "So, you knew I was here and brought the ring just for me?" Mu Zhian took off the Na ring and handed it to her, smiling. "Yep, knew you were here. Thanks again for your help last time. Always knows the right thing to say." Fei Ying gave him a playful look, then, changing her tone, she asked, "I heard you were in Longzhou Forest yesterday. Why don't you come to the tea house for a cup of tea and a chat?" Normally, Mu Zhian would have jumped at the chance, but he was busy today, so he politely declined. "Maybe next time. I've got something on." Come to think of it, you usually only hang out in Jiafangxi and Gulan, not inns. What brings you here? Fei Ying paused, then continued, "Could he be here to see her, too?" Mu Zhian didn't deny it, smiling. "Did Mr. Huang ask you to invite the appraiser, too?" Fei Ying's mouth dropped open slightly, looking surprised. Then, her tender, watery eyes glanced at Mu Zhian knowingly. "So, you are here to see her, why do they sound so familiar with each other?" Mu Zhian smiled and said, "Fei Ying, you can't answer a question with a question." Fei Ying pursed her lips. "I'm just meeting an acquaintance. Mr. Huang has nothing to do with it. After all, Fei Ying isn't really an employee of the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce. She only has to show up for major auctions." "Male or female?" Mu Zhian asked, curious. Fei Ying glanced at him. "A relative." "Okay, then." Mu Zhian smiled. "See you later, Fei Ying. I'm heading upstairs." Fei Ying just said, "Okay," softly, shaking her head as she watched Mu Zhian head up to the second floor. That Lan Murian is a cold fish. She already turned down invitations from the Gong Sun and by families this morning. The Mu family is powerful in Tianxian City, but they don't have anything Lan Murian wants. To avoid any suspicion, she wouldn't accept an invitation even if it came from them. Fei Ying turned to leave. Just then, she heard the faint sound of a door opening. She paused, turning her head to see that the door of a private room in the corner had quietly opened. When she saw Mu Zhian walking into the room, she was clearly stunned. It took her a moment to recover. Then, she pursed her sexy lips and turned to head downstairs. Well, this might be a good thing. At least Lan Murian knows someone here. Inside, Mu Zhian looked around the luxuriously decorated room. his gaze quickly landing on Lan Mulyan. She was wearing a moon-white dress, her hair cascading down her back like a waterfall. She'd simply tied it back with a white ribbon, leaving a few strands to fall, a cool, ethereal beauty, more like an angel who'd come down to earth. "Good morning," Mu Zhian said with a smile. "I meditated last night." Lan Mulyan's brow relaxed slightly, a faint smile in her eyes, making her look noble and aloof, just like her letters. Mu Zhian continued, trying to sound concerned, "Was it hard to sleep, being away from your sect?" Lan Mulyan shook her head gently, inviting him to sit. "You don't need to rest after you reach the God-refining realm. You'll understand when you get there. I heard about your adventures in Tianxian City from the other travelers this morning." "Quite the story." Lan Mulyan added, "Who is gossiping like this? Why bring this up right away? And why is she so gossipy all of a sudden, asking about this as soon as she gets to Tianxian City?" Mu Zhian felt a little regretful. Inviting her to Tianxian City might not have been such a hot idea. This definitely wasn't helping his rep. According to what the man in black robes said before he died, there might be other demon cultivators in this city. Lan Mulyan frowned slightly, changing the subject. "If possible, we should find out who they are before the sect assessment begins. Demon cultivators and humans are natural enemies. A demon cultivator, possibly in the God-refining realm, hiding in Tianxian City is a ticking time bomb." Mu Zhian nodded. "I'll have the Mu family look into it. If you don't mind, you can stay at Mu's house temporarily. That way, I can let you know as soon as I hear anything." Lan Mulyan shook her head. "If there's news, just come to the inn. I'll be here." As a sect assessor, she needed to avoid any appearance of favoritism. Staying with the Mu family would cause gossip when Mu Zhian applies to the Liangyi sect later. Mu Zhian didn't press the issue, respecting her decision. Just then, he noticed the jade bottle next to him, with a pure white snow lotus inside. "That paper crane is one fast messenger," Mu Zhian said. "Then, we can just keep in touch by paper crane." Lan Mulyan nodded. She preferred letters to talking, but they'd need to reset the paper crane's destination. Right now, any paper crane sent would fly to the back mountain of Liangyi sect. She'd have to focus her thoughts on the inn to get them to fly here, but exchanging letters was worth a little effort. After chatting a bit longer, Mu Zhian made up an excuse to leave the inn. He'd come to talk to Lan Mulyan about something else, about the beautiful snake, but he'd held back. If he told her about it now, she might tell the elders of the Liangyi sect. But what if the demon cultivator was in the upper echelons of Liangyi sect? If a demon cultivator was in a position of power, his betrayal could get him killed. Never underestimate your enemy. Since the beautiful snake had been so blatant about recruiting him and asking him to share information, it must have a plan. Anyway, the queen had said to report every 3 months. After joining the Liangyi sect, he should try to uncover the identity of the demon cultivator hiding there before making any decisions. For now, finding the third demon cultivator in Tianxian City was his top priority. Yi family. Yi Yu sat cross-legged on his bed, eyes closed, brow furrowed, looking lost in thought. After a while, he opened his eyes, and his dark gaze was filled with a smoldering anger. "Calm down. Losing the heavenly chi isn't all bad." An old voice inside his body spoke slowly, calming Yi Yu down a bit. "What do you mean, master? How can losing heavenly chi be a good thing?" His voice was trembling, full of regret. He'd been blinded by anger and hadn't thought about why Mu Zhian had chosen Longzhou Forest for the competition. It wasn't until this morning, hearing the gossip, that he'd finally understood the competition was a cover. Mu Zhian's real target was the 2 demon cultivators and the heavenly chi inside him. Now, the heavenly chi was probably in Mu Zhian's hands. "Without the heavenly chi, your cultivation will slow down, but it was because of the heavenly chi that I couldn't teach you my secret method," the old voice explained. "Secret method?" Yi Yu repeated. "What secret method? Could any secret method be better than heavenly chi? The heavenly chi automatically purifies your body and gives you pure spiritual energy. The secret method I'm going to teach you requires you to absorb mixed spiritual energy, a somewhat unorthodox approach. It'll be harder, but you might achieve even greater heights than you would with the heavenly chi. However, it'll be painful. Think about it and tell me if you're ready. Yi Yu replied immediately, Master, I want to learn the secret method. The old man smiled. I believe in your determination. Close your eyes, and I'll begin. Hearing this, the fire of war rekindled in Yi Yu's eyes, and he clenched his fists. He might have lost this round, but the sect assessment was still to come. If he could hang on for a few more days, reach the Qi training realm, pass the sect assessment, and then get the favor of the assessor, he could skip the outer disciple stage and become an inner disciple of Liang's sect. Even without the heavenly Qi, he was still a genius. Yi Yu closed his eyes, took a deep breath, calmed his mind, and listened to the secret method taught by the old man inside him. By family, Bai Ruoshi sat in her room, cross-legged on her bed. The heavenly Qi was working overtime, purifying and absorbing the surrounding spiritual energy. Her cultivation speed was 3 or 4 times faster than before. After half an hour, Bai Ruoshi slowly opened her eyes. Her expression was complicated, with joy, helplessness, and pain. The joy came from her incredible cultivation speed, and the helplessness and pain came from her mother. She'd returned to the Bai family feeling nervous. She'd expected her parents to be fighting, but to her surprise, they were the same as always, acting like nothing had happened. Her father obviously knew about Gongsun Xiong and her mother, but why? She wanted to confront her mother, but she couldn't. If it was Master Mu, what would he do? Bai Ruoshi sighed. She realized she'd become a little dependent on him, even though she was much stronger than him. Dong dong. As Bai Ruoshi was thinking, there was a knock at the door, and the maid's voice said, Miss, the eldest son of the Mu family is here to see you. Why is he here so early? Bai Ruoshi's eyes flickered, and for some reason, she felt happy. Her voice brightened slightly as she said, Let him in. After a moment, she added, Don't disturb my parents. Bring him to my room through the backyard. Chapter 47 The Correct Use of the Natural Cauldron. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. White House. A maid led Mu Zhian to Bai Ruoshi's room. He knocked, and after hearing her invitation, opened the door to find the eldest Bai daughter dressed simply. She wore a long, unadorned white dress, her lips touched with a glossy rouge that made them look plump and inviting. She was dressed more casually than when she was out. But with her natural beauty, she looked stunning even without heavy makeup. After Bai Ruoshi told the maid to prepare tea and dismissed her and the other attendant, she turned to Mu Zhian. Master Mu is here because of my mother, isn't he? This girl's sharp, Mu Zhian thought. She knows why I'm here, he nodded. Just checking in. Has your mother shown any reaction? Bai Ruoshi hesitated. They're acting as usual. That's strange. Most men would react to their wives wearing a cuckold's hat and acting like it was nothing, especially Father Bai, who's such a hothead. He wouldn't be able to hide his feelings. Could there be something else going on? Mu Zhian paused. If anything changes, please let me know right away. This needs more digging. There might be some secrets involving Bai's mother. Bai Ruoshi gave a small nod, then abruptly changed the subject. Did you happen to be at Yangfeng earlier today? Mu Zhian noticed a sudden shift. Bai Ruoshi's bright eyes seemed to darken. Is she accusing me of having an affair first thing in the morning? Her attitude was a far cry from her reluctance when they first met. Before, she wouldn't have cared less who he was seeing. She probably would have preferred him to cling to someone else and leave her alone. Mu Zhian sighed. I was visiting senior sister Lan. She's one of the examiners for the sect. I'm only at Qi level 3. I need to make an impression. Otherwise, they might not let me in. My father sent someone to invite her this morning, but she refused to see anyone. Bai Ruoshi's expression was blank. As an examiner, she'd naturally want to avoid any appearance of favoritism. So you didn't get to see her, then? Mu Zhian shook his head. No, she's not seeing anyone. I didn't expect Bai Ruoshi to care this much, and the news travels fast. The Bai family must be doing better since Father Bai came back. With him as the family's protector, the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce wouldn't dare to attack the Bai family like before. They probably ran away with their tails between their legs. The Gongsun family now had a patriarch in charge, and he was too busy dealing with internal conflicts to bother with Father Bai. The Chenxi Chamber of Commerce wouldn't be able to move anytime soon. Plus, Bai Ruoxi's close relationship with the Mu family sent a message. Mu Zhian expected Bai Ruoxi, always aloof and uninterested in petty matters, to drop the subject. But she continued, the Mu family always has a guaranteed spot in the sect. If you keep bothering senior sister Lan, you might annoy her, and she might make things difficult for you. It sounded like concern, but the underlying message was clear. Stay away from her. She seems so fragile, but she's surprisingly possessive. Mu Zhian glanced at her, a little surprised, and nodded calmly. You're right. I'll take your advice and leave her alone. We can just use paper cranes to communicate. Bai Ruoxi gave a reserved "Hmm." She raised a hand, revealing the milky white orb of energy. If you're worried about people judging you for joining the sect at Qi level 3, you could practice in my room for a while. I can control the heavenly Qi, keep it by your side, and have it purify spiritual energy for you. First, she criticized the senior sister, then implied, only I care about you. Even though he knew it was a classic move, Mu Zhian felt a little better. He eyed the heavenly Qi in her palm. She has to stay here to control it and speed up my training. Is this some kind of weird co-cultivation? Does this mean I'll have to be around her all the time to improve? After a moment, he nodded. Let's give it a shot. Mu Zhian sat cross-legged on the bed, while Bai Ruoxi began to channel the heavenly Qi toward him. The Qi quickly started absorbing surrounding spiritual energy, purifying it, and releasing it. The cauldron inside Mu Zhian began to work, absorbing the purified energy. No wonder everyone wants this stuff. Even a pig could become a spirit-refining demon with this. As Mu Zhian marveled, Bai Ruoxi, controlling the heavenly Qi, stared at him in surprise. That's weird. It doesn't feel like all the purified energy is being absorbed. Bai Ruoxi frowned, watching him practice with his eyes closed. It's not that it's not being absorbed. It's that there are 2 cauldrons inside Mu Zhian. Normally, a cultivator only had 1 cauldron formed in the spirit-refining realm. But Bai Ruoxi clearly felt more than one operating inside him. Confused, she sat sideways on the couch, cautiously extending a slender hand, her cool fingers touching Mu Zhian's face. This handsome face had annoyed her for years, but lately, it had become more appealing, even captivating Tianxian City's beauty. No, now's not the time. Bai Ruoxi shook her head, focusing on Mu Zhian's chest. When she saw 2 wisps of ethereal energy entering his body, she gasped. A natural furnace tripod. For the first time, surprise flickered across Bai Ruoxi's cold, beautiful face. No wonder 2 energies were entering him. He doesn't just have 1 tripod. He is one. If she remembered correctly, the natural furnace tripod was useless on its own. But with a female cultivator, it was a different story. Even simple contact could allow a spirit-refining cultivator to break through to become a land immortal. If this were discovered, Bai Ruoxi's eyes darted about, staring at his handsome face, her emotions in turmoil. Suddenly, Mu Zhian opened his eyes. Bai Ruoxi's heart leaped, her eyes wide with panic, and she nearly yanked her hand back as if shocked. Sensing his gaze, she looked away, trying to sound calm. Why did you stop meditating so soon? I thought someone was touching my face, so I wanted to see if someone else was here. The delicate beauty's heart skipped a beat. Trying to remain composed, she said, I thought I sensed 2 cauldrons in your body, so I was just checking. Sorry for interrupting your practice. As if feeling the tension, Bai Ruoxi changed the subject. It would be best to keep that 2nd cauldron hidden. If it's discovered, you might become a target. This physique was useless for men, but it was a different story for women. Seeing Mu Zhian's silence, she was about to turn to him when she felt a warm hand cover hers. She looked up and met his fiery gaze, her heart pounded. She wanted to pull away, but found herself strangely reluctant to move. Mu Zhian stared at her blushing face. Someone as elegant and untouchable as the eldest Bai daughter looked even more charming with a touch of shyness. Mu Zhian stepped closer, intertwining their fingers. He leaned in, and Bai Ruoxi, like a trapped rabbit, clutched at the bed covers, backing away until she hit the headboard. She looked up at his face so close and lowered her gaze, her long lashes fluttering. "Is this okay?" he whispered, his face inches away. Ruashi lifted her eyes to meet his burning gaze, a warm current flowing through her. Her face hot, she murmured a soft Mu Zhian wasted no time, embracing her and lowering his head to taste her plump lips. He had no ulterior motives, he just wanted to taste her rouge. Chapter 48, There is a Demon in Bai Mansion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the Bai family's side hall, the head of the family, Father Bai, sat in a tea chair, carefully brewing tea. Nearby, two servants reported on the Bai family's recent losses. Father Bai frowned and occasionally flared up, but eventually calmed down and asked in a deep voice, "Has the Dawn Chamber of Commerce pulled out all their people? That he'd been tricked into leaving town a few days back, and while he was gone, the Bai family was hit hard. He even ran into trouble on the way home. If it weren't for the Mu family's young friend, the damage would have been far worse." "Yes, they're all gone. They left yesterday, right after you got back, sir," the servant replied respectfully. Father Bai scoffed. "Merchants. They switch sides faster than the weather." Though a straightforward man, he knew fighting the Dawn Chamber of Commerce and the Gongsun family at the same time was suicide. Their only real enemy was the Gongsun family. "All right, you can go." Father Bai dismissed the servants with a wave. He rubbed his temples, a headache brewing as he thought about how to fix this mess. "Is Ruashi still in her room?" he asked the maid beside him. "She's been practicing ever since she got back today, sir. I think she's hoping to pass the Sect assessment in a few days," the maid said respectfully. Father Bai sighed and shook his head. The Sect assessment was just an excuse. With her skills, getting into a sect wouldn't be hard. She was just avoiding them because of her mother. He needed to talk to her soon. His wife shouldn't have forced her to marry into the Mu family while he was away. No wonder she was so distant now. Since returning, Father Bai had realized the engagement with the Yi family was off, and she could choose whoever she wanted, ideally, someone of equal standing, so she wouldn't struggle after marrying. Lost in thought, Father Bai told the maid, "Have the young lady come to the side hall. I need to talk to her." She was his daughter, after all. She deserved to know what was happening. Watching the maid bow and leave, Father Bai tapped the edge of his chair, his thoughts drifting. The maid walked toward Bai Ruashi's room, and soon arrived at her door. She knocked gently. "Miss, your father wants you in the side hall." Silence. The maid frowned and knocked again, calling out tentatively, "Miss." There seemed to be a slight commotion inside. The maid sensed something was off, and cautiously pushed the door open, saying, "Miss, I'm coming in." Inside, Bai Ruashi was sitting on the bed in a white dress, a bit of her leg visible beneath the hem, her feet in white socks. Her face was beautiful as always, and her expression cool and collected, but there was a faint blush on her cheeks and a flicker of panic in her eyes. Bai Ruashi looked up, calm and indifferent, and said, "I was just practicing, and it took a lot out of me. Tell my father I'll be there later." Though her expression was calm, a hint of panic colored her voice. "Yes, miss." The maid, suspicious but unwilling to pry, lowered her head, backed out of the room, and closed the door. Mu Zhian floated down from the ceiling beam. He saw the girl was touching her chest and slowly exhaling and smiled. "Actually, maybe I don't need to hide at all." Given the Mu family's status in Tianxian City, even if the maid had seen him, she wouldn't say anything. She might be surprised to find him in the room, since the Bai family's eldest daughter had never invited a man to her room, let alone let him stay so long. Bai Ruashi sat at her dressing table, fixing her hair in the mirror. Looking at the boy behind her, she said, "If people find out, there'll be rumors all over Tianxian City. It wouldn't be good for you." News of Mu Zhian being in Bai Ruashi's room would spark talk of him threatening her. People already saw Mu Zhian as a bad boy. Even Bai Ruashi had thought so, which was why she'd looked down on him at first. But lately, she'd started to forget his past behavior. Love was blind, after all. She adjusted her collar, then bit her rouge and touched up her lips. The rouge-biting action was attractive, and Mu Zhian couldn't help but watch her. After fixing her makeup, Bai Ruashi stood up, ready to leave, but she bumped into the young man behind her, who put his hands on her shoulders. She took a step back, hitting the dressing table. Her face flushed, she looked away and whispered, "Stop it. I have to go to the side hall." Mu Zhian stared at her profile and said softly, "Just one more time. It won't take long." The maid had interrupted him earlier, and he wasn't finished. Bai Ruoshi looked at him, helpless and shy. "Later, when I get back." Before she could finish, Mu Zhian kissed her again, her eyes widened. Her hands hovered, wanting to push him away, but she couldn't bring herself to do it. After a moment of internal struggle, her eyes glazed over, and her hands went around his neck. Yes, just one kiss, and it'd be over soon. She could always reapply the rouge later. After touching up her lips again, Bai Ruoshi left the room, telling Mu Zhian not to wander around. The Bai family wasn't as safe as it used to be. If he left the room, he might be discovered. At the door, Bai Ruoshi glanced back, reminding him, "The aura of heaven has purified the air in here, so it can be absorbed. I'll be back after you meditate for half an hour. Don't go anywhere." "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing," Mu Zhian said with a smile. Bai Ruoshi smiled and nodded, her hair falling across her face. Then she turned and left, closing the door behind her. "I never thought I'd be meditating in a girl's room," Mu Zhian said to himself, watching her disappear, then looking around at the abundant spiritual energy, thinking back to her attitude in the carriage and comparing it to now. It was pretty wild. As he was thinking, he couldn't help but remember their kiss. Rouge really did taste good. He glanced at the rouges on the dressing table, in every shade from dark to light. "Let's try a different flavor next time." Mu Zhian looked away, at the abundant spiritual energy, and sighed. The chi of heaven really was something else. The purification speed was amazing. Too bad it only followed the lucky ones. Mu Zhian shook his head and sat down to meditate, but then he caught a glimpse of something out of the corner of his eye. He looked up, through the window, toward the yard. The purified auras were invisible, but he could see a wisp of pink smoke rising from the yard. Evil spirit. Chapter 49 Monster, I can tell at a glance that you are not human. 3K, you are listening at novelfull.audio. It was weird. If there was a demon hanging around the Bai place, why hadn't he sensed it before? Mu Zhian walked to the window, staring at the hazy pink mist swirling in the air. Then, he glanced at the purified spiritual energy around him and it clicked. The demonic energy had been hiding in the regular spiritual energy, probably masked by some kind of barrier within the Bai estate, but Bai Ruoshi's heavenly energy had just purified the area, inadvertently exposing the demon's presence. The Bai family and a demon cultivator are working together. Mu Zhian wondered. He quickly dismissed the thought. If the Bai family were teaming up with demons, they wouldn't be getting stomped on so hard by the Gongsun family and the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce. Then Mu Zhian remembered what the black-robed guy's accomplice had said. They'd mentioned coming to Tianxian City to meet up with others and use the city as a base to snag the Chi of Heaven, which meant they didn't have a base yet. So, who's been making power plays lately? Trying to muscle in on Tianxian City? Normally, you'd point to the Gongsun family or the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce, not the Bai family, but here's the kicker, the demonic presence is in the Bai family, the least likely place. They've been getting crushed. Logically, the mole wouldn't be there. Wait a minute, a thought struck Mu Zhian like lightning, freezing him in place. Okay, the Bai family as a whole might not be involved, but what if someone within the Bai family was? Who's been quietly pulling strings during the Bai family's recent downfall? The thought kept Mu Zhian rooted to the spot. Finally, he snapped out of it. He gripped the table, vaulted out the window, and landed in the courtyard. After checking for patrolling servants, he hopped onto the roof, his eyes zeroing in on the hut in the backyard. A plume of pink smoke rose from its roof, radiating an unsettling feeling, but the normal spiritual energy was slowly reclaiming the area, and the pink smoke was gradually disappearing into it. A demon cultivator really is hiding in the Bai family. Mu Zhian stared at the hut. After a moment, he turned away and quietly left the Bai estate. To be sure of his hunch, he needed Wei Mengra's protection. Meanwhile, back inside the Bai residence, Bai's father turned to his daughter, who sat beside him, lips pursed, face blank. "Sierre, are you still mad at your old man?" he asked gently. Bai Ruoshi said flatly, "I'm not mad, Dad. I just don't understand why you're acting like everything's normal. Master Mu showed me Mom with another man that day. She locked eyes with her father, bit her lip, and asked, "Didn't you know?" "I know, of course, I know," Bai's father said as he poured himself a cup of tea and downed it in one gulp. "But seeing isn't always believing. Tell me, when you saw your mother and Gongsun Xiong that night, did you actually see them getting cozy?" Bai Ruoshi hesitated. "I didn't see it, but I heard them talking." Bai's father set down his teacup and addressed the empty room. "Madam, I'll leave the rest to you." Bai Ruoshi looked up, surprised to see her mother stroll through the back door of the room. She stared at her mother, conflicted. Honestly, she was at a loss how to act around her. Mother and daughter gazed at each other, silent. Bai Ruoshi opened her mouth, about to speak, but Bai Yuanfeng spoke first, whispering something. Bai Ruoshi's eyes widened, shocked. She covered her mouth, staring at her mother in disbelief. After a long pause, her expression softened. Soon after, Bai Ruoshi left the room, looking a lot less tense, though a hint of worry lingered in her eyes. She walked down the corridor to her room, opened the door, and was surprised to find Mu Zhian gone. Guess he went back. Bai Ruoshi felt a twinge of disappointment, but she masked it well. It couldn't be helped. After waiting in the side hall for so long, Master Mu must have gotten bored. Besides, she hadn't decided how to talk to him. Should she just spill the beans about her mother's secret? What would he do if she told him? Would he tell senior sister Lan? If that happened, she'd have to pick sides. Bai Ruoshi frowned, her beautiful face a mask of icy worry. She sighed and shook her head to clear her thoughts. Then, she took out the chi of heaven, purified the spiritual energy, and let it flow into her body. 2 hours flew by, and darkness had fallen. The trees rustled in the yard, their shadows dancing in the breeze. Bai Ruoshi opened her eyes, changed into a white dress, asked her maid to light sandalwood, dismissed the servants, and was about to turn in. Suddenly, she heard a noise outside the window. Instantly alert, Bai Ruoshi looked up and saw a young man climb in. "Mr. Mu." Bai Ruoshi instinctively grabbed the covers, eyed Mu Zhian, and stammered, "How did you get in?" "I told the maids I was here to see you," Mu Zhian said with a smile, taking in the sight of her by candlelight. Bai Ruoshi sat on the bed, looking lovely with her dark hair against the white dress and luminous skin. Mu Zhian walked over and sat down, turning to her and asking, "You seem down. Did your father say something this afternoon that upset you?" Bai Ruoshi hesitated, torn, glancing at Mu Zhian, then looking away. Finally, she shook her head gently. "He didn't say anything that upset me." "Did he say anything that surprised you? Made you feel uneasy?" Mu Zhian asked, a smile playing on his lips. Bai Ruoshi looked stunned and turned to him. She saw the smile on his face, the concern in his eyes. In that moment, something deep inside her stirred. Bai Ruoshi opened her mouth. "Master Mu, I need to tell you something. My father came to me this afternoon and told me about my mother." Before she could finish, Mu Zhian placed a finger on her lips, his smile warm and gentle. "Don't say anything. Just get some sleep." Bai Ruoshi pushed his hand away. "But what I want to say might be important to you." Mu Zhian waved a hand dismissively. "It's important, but you don't need to tell me. Someone else will," he added, as if he already knew. Bai Ruoshi looked at Mu Zhian, troubled. "Is there anything I can do?" Mu Zhian paused and said sincerely, "Can I sleep in your room tonight?" Bai Ruoshi froze, clutching her clothes. Wasn't this moving a bit fast? So much had happened today. She wasn't in the mood for anything. She seemed to have misread his intentions. Mu Zhian saw her reaction and explained, "If I stay outside the Bai place, I'll get spotted. But if I stay in your room, no one will suspect a thing. Is that okay?" Mu Zhian asked. Did she misunderstand him? Bai Ruoshi sighed in relief and nodded. "Of course. But why do you have to stay at the Bai place tonight?" That she actually agreed. Mu Zhian deliberately played it cool and said, "You'll see." Bai Ruoshi didn't press him. "Is there anything else I can do to help?" Bai Ruoshi wasn't naive, but their time together had made her trust Mu Zhian. If he'd wanted to screw over the Bai family, he could have done it already. Mu Zhian looked at her. In modern times, she would be a powerful CEO, polite to everyone but impossible to get close to. There is one more thing only you can do, Mu Zhian said. Bai Ruoshi looked at him curiously. What? I want to know what you taste like without lipstick, Mu Zhian said, dead serious. Bai Ruoshi blinked, and then Mu Zhian took hold of her shoulders, gently easing her back onto the bed. MMPH. Bai Ruoshi started to say something, but her mouth was covered, muffling the sound. Her hair spread across the bed, her eyes fixed on his face as she felt his warm hand take hers. Her vision blurred, and she stopped fighting, but she started to wonder if Mu Zhian was there to do something good, or something bad.